first, is everyone able to go downstairs? Go downstairs, because we're going to start at the top. That's what I like to do. So every time I got to change floors, I just go down the stairs instead of up all the stairs. So we will go to the big elevator to go up.
We'll follow you.
Thanks.
Well, thank you.
On stairs. But I can always throw someone on the elevator if you want them. Please don't throw us. Yeah. I broke my leg a long time ago. For a long time I used to go downstairs. Up was okay, but not down. Down was like a controlled fall. So this is, we'll talk about the first floor while we go. So this is our main entrance, the street entrance of the Plaster Center, which was completed and had a grand opening in 2021. So we have a lot of funding for this building, one of which was the Plaster family. So you can see their name on the outside of the building. Mr. Plaster Robert W. Plaster started Empire Gas and made his fortune that way. So then he was able to give back, and we built part of this building thanks to that gift. There's a bunch of other gifts, which we'll look at the donor wall in a little bit, so you can kind of get an idea of who gave gifts and how much support we had. So I think the main point for that is that we didn't use any student tuition or fees, and we didn't use any state money. It was all privately raised funds that were either gifts from foundations or individuals or from grants. So we had some pretty large grants that bought most of the equipment in the building, because we have almost as much in equipment as we do in the building. So the building, is about 20 million, and we got about 20 million bucks worth of equipment in it. You can see, and when you go through all of the support that we had, so we've named a lot of these labs. So this is the Black and Beach Student Collaboration Studio. And so the original purpose behind this is to have a flexible space where senior design teams could go in and work on their projects. However, we also have other student-centric activities, like when companies come in and give lectures, or if you just have any other multi-purpose space. So we've run some different camps out of here and some different recruiting events out of this space. Across the hall is our ISO 6, ISO 7 clean room. There are, the School of Dentistry has used some of these printers for dental hardware. We also have a bio printer that will create a lattice upon which a cell culture can grow, and you can do something like an ear, a simple thing like an ear. So we have that in there. And the clean room, the purpose of it is that it's completely uncontaminated, right? You don't want to grow someone's custom ear or something and then have it reject the ear because contamination or other DNA or something got in there. We also use it for like nanomaterials and biofilms and thin films where you can't have contamination.
Most of the things with technology associated, most of the drift by technology.
Yeah, this whole building, so if you notice, you can see in every lab. So this is kind of the opposite of what we have in Florsheim Hall. If you're familiar with Florsheim Hall, you go down a whole hallway, a huge hallway, just with doors, you don't know what's happening behind those doors. So we wanted it to be like science and engineering on display so that people could see what was happening, and if researchers and other researchers and students could see what was happening, maybe they would decide they wanted to work together because it wasn't a mystery of what was going on in there. They could see what was going on. And so we've also changed the idea of, I guess, like lab ownership in this building. So these labs are administered, each one by groups of faculty who are collaborating on projects. So it's not like Dr. So-and-so has his lab here, and his students are here behind these closed doors, and they only work on these one things. So this is where you could have cross-disciplinary teams working on a variety of projects with a variety of faculty that you would need, maybe electrical engineering, you might need a materials specialist, you might need a mechanical engineer, computer scientist to work on those things. So we have a really well-developed process that people can go through to protect their IP. So we have people that we send them to. I do not do that, but I would know who would. Right.
So, how many students are involved in these various projects here?
Oh, there's hundreds involved. I mean, it's very dead right now because it's summertime. Even so, there are still people that are doing research year round on contracts and sponsored research and those things. So, that's the gowning room. You know, before you go in, you gown up and you're hermetically sealed so that when you enter the fuse room, you're not contaminating something with it. And you can see this is a Burns and Mac room. This is the student team space. Student teams are working in here now, so we're not going to go in there. But you can see this is where we do the Baja buggy. So there's a whole bunch of different buggies over there. They've got garage doors where they can take their Baja buggy out and drive it around, the little circle drive. That's a paint booth back there. If you look around the corner, you can see the concrete canoe. We went first, most recently, in concrete canoe. Steel bridge will work in there. So anything that has kind of a bigger project where they're actually making something, so like competitive teams, where the competitive teams work out. Yes. It's a major upgrade over the building.
Yeah.
The Baja Buggy is a competitive racing team, so they race against all the other universities. We actually have a trailer, so they can take their buggy on the road and they race it around. Yeah, so they have to make their buggy every year, and then is it able to do the course? Does it stay together? Do you have a failure? Do you what happens?
No,
Is it what?
it's racing.
Just no race. It's for racing.
You are
Yeah.
right. You are right. I think one of the competition involved using solar panel to power it. I think so, some time ago.
Yeah, I don't know.
One year it was. Yeah, so they do use renewable energy. It's all experimental right now. That's what we found.
But there's certain rules, everyone follows the same rules
Right.
of land.
National-
There's only so much, extra that they let you do. But we help them in our shops to, if they need something bent, like a piece of metal bent or something fabricated for their buggy, then we have the capability of doing that in this building.
Because when you say this frame, you might see it here someplace. Yeah, one, like that one, red one there. Like this other one here. So they have different versions of that.
So you can see, this is the outside of Forsheim Hall. So we really built the building right onto Forsheim Hall, right around it. So we just left the old exterior.
These facilities manufacture most of the things that are used on the UMKC campus? I mean, I just, or,
I wouldn't think so. I
Okay.
think it's specifically for research purposes or
Okay.
student team purposes.
right.
But yeah, there's probably other requests for things, but it's
But
whatever
not-
will support research and student projects.
Mm-hmm.
And also classes, senior design classes and things like this. So this is our structural high bay lab, and you can see that the main Plaster building is over there. This building kind of comes off in its own direction, and the reason is because this is what you would use for anything like dirty, like concrete, or anything destructive. So this floor can hold hundreds of thousands of tons with, and all these tie downs. So you can take, huge beams and you can try to stress them and see when they'll crack, when they'll break. And you can do all of that in this type of room. We have a lot of concrete research actually in here right now. So it's
You have to deal a lot with materials.
a lot of materials. This is where you
Pencils and-
really can get sloppy and it's
Yeah.
not really a big deal.
Yeah.
So, that's supposed to be our loading dock, but we really just kind of use that as storage. And, because we can also bring it in through that big garage door over there. But we do have it also built in where you can see that we have like observations spots, so that people can actually look in here without actually having to come in and be doing something. You can't just walk in.
Is this mainly contract research?
No, not necessarily. But it could be sponsored research.
Did someone get a graduate degree in determining how much load they can do?
Sure, yeah. I mean, a lot of people do like concrete research, for example. So they're always working on better ways of making pervious concrete, for example. And so you may be getting your master's degree in your Master of Science in Civil Engineering. It may be a concentration in materials, for example. And you could do your research in concrete research. So yeah, this is, we do a lot of big and heavy and dirty projects in here. Yeah, yes. Christina is here right now. Yeah, so at 55, I can technically retire, but I can't really afford to retire. But that's only 3 years away. I'm counting. I'm not counting.
Every step. That's right. None of us counted.
So do you end up having some maybe redundancy, different units? Like equipment here,
Oh, yeah, yes.
would the same thing be in, say, in the physics department?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
clean room here, maybe clean room
We
in
have
biology?
there's no other clean room in the entire region. This is it. We tried not to replicate the big things that we had
Yeah, okay.
elsewhere. I'll get on here.
Mom, I
I think we can. We're all, most of us are
Then the decision was made
on,
that
on.
any equipment that is here can be shared by anybody.
There we go.
Yeah.
That was a good idea. So why do we do that?
Have you
Sometimes
noticed
it's really
whether
waste if you have
students
things
are
here.
Oh, of course, you know that, as she said. They used to have their own lab, and nobody know what is going on, and how it is. So that's really, it's a good thing.
This looks familiar too. What department were you in?
Dentistry.
Dentistry, okay.
And you are from?
I'm from political science and PACE program, and so I'm up here.
Okay.
So I used to get my teeth done. I started
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Everybody's got to go to
Dr.
dental
Plaster.
school.
That's right.
Please go ahead.
So you can see a full
Hey, who's our doctor? Did you know Dr. Petrie? Oh, okay. I got here in '94.
Faculty has completely changed
Yeah, I
since
know.
then.
Yes. By the way, it's good to see you. It's the first time.
Right, we live in California,
Oh,
but we bought a little place here, and so we'll come back occasionally.
okay.
This is my first time to come.
Okay, because I interact with you. I'm Jacob Waterboard.
Right, I recognize your face. You're the secretary?
Yeah,
Treasurer?
secretary on the board for the
Right.
Emeritus College. But at the moment, I'm also president of one.
Oh, wonderful. You know, you sent me an ID card, and I was afraid I was going to have it to get in here. I
No.
left it back in California, but fortunately I didn't need it.
No, we're not that. We're not a high security, high security situation.
What part of California did you go?
Oceanside? That's what I would tell you.
Where's the near?
It's by San Diego.
Oh, San
It's
Diego.
about 35 miles.
I also retired from the Navy, so I know a lot about it. Yeah, North Island.
Well, yeah, because you get up to the top, and especially being the tour guide, I'm like, hold on. So this is outside of Florsheim Hall, and they punched a hole right here, actually removed a few offices that were right here, and then just built this building right on Florsheim Hall. This is technically a 5-story building, but there isn't any, this is just a stub out to the renewable energy roof deck, which we'll go out and look at right now.
There's always going to be important.
So up here is primarily wind and solar energy experiments. So what they're trying to do is figure out how to gather and store renewable energy better. There's a lab that's on the floor right below this where all of these wires just go right through the floor into the lab and they gather the data there. This was sponsored by Evergy. You can see all over the building the naming that happens. And the reason that we chose this is because it has an unbroken sun, so there's no shadow from any larger structure on any of the solar arrays, and also very little obstruction from the wind. So we put this up here. We didn't put the HVAC up here because this was going to take experimental space, so we had to stick the HVAC on the fourth floor, which it was kind of a waste of space, but it was like a trade-off. So. What? The experiments that we'll have up here are renewable energy experiments. They can change, yes, they do change. Different ways of collecting solar energy with 2 different wind turbines. We also measure like the speed of the wind and the direction of the wind goes right there. And then here we're figuring out how to feed up like the water to these tubes because but I don't have any more details. it's School of Science and Engineering, but any faculty can participate in these. But this is School of Science and Engineering building.
It's that
The
department.
fundraising was done by my boss, who's Dean Truman, who's the dean of the school.
Is this a panel too, solar panel?
Yes.
Looks like a strobe light.
They also have ones that focus the sunlight so that it can be collected. Because some places don't get as much sun, or they have to use ways of focusing their solar energy to collect more solar energy.
So you say you have a Dean Truman? Is he like the dean of?
School of Science and Engineering.
Oh, so okay, for the whole thing, not just the center here.
Yeah, the School of Science and Engineering, it is the old School of Computing and Engineering merged with the sciences part of arts and sciences.
Yes.
So it's engineering, computer science, math, chemistry, physics, biology, geosciences, architecture, and urban planning. Yeah. One big school of STEM.
It's the biggest school now at UMKC.
School now, it's a whole lot.
Is it bigger by student population as well?
Yep.
Yes.
Really?
Student population, faculty,
Really?
money that they bring, everything.
What happened?
Sir Reggie,
It's like a,
so do you have any implication in reality? Say that I want to install some solar panels in my home. Can the students, graduate students, can come to my
No,
home?
we don't do outside
Well,
work.
you should do that. You should apply the.
Yeah.
This is
Typically, we'll take projects
it
from
heats water
industry,
up, and then
not
you
from
can translate.
individuals. So a company may give us a senior design challenge, but we avoid doing individual projects because obviously there would be tens of thousands of projects that people wanted us to do. And we want a company that's going to hire our students in the future. So the companies give us these projects and then they take and hire the best students that did the best work.
So you don't want to be competing with MRI, so to speak.
What?
You don't want to be competing
No,
with
no,
MRI.
we
yeah.
want to complement what's happening around here. We don't want to try to compete with it. That's not our goal. So we want to try to fill areas that needed to be filled. Okay?
Who are the faculty who are involved in renewable energy research?
Who?
Faculty, yeah.
I can't remember. No. And I think some faculty are changing, so I couldn't really say.
You know faculty, they change.
Okay? This way. Don't trip this way.
looks like you're ready for another class. He's critiquing the first one.
At least you know which floor you are.
Have you folks been doing okay?
Thermal energy.
She's still in Taiwan. She arrives in San Francisco later on tonight. And so she'll be home first thing tomorrow morning. I'll pick her up from the airport.
So remember when I was telling you that we had to put the HVAC somewhere besides the roof? So it's actually in here, which is really not very cool or glamorous, but that's where we had to put it so we could put it on the roof. We only had X number of choices. And it would have been nice to build a slightly bigger building, but we got a certain amount of funds and we just decided to just go forward with it. So currently we're doing fundraising on a second building, which we originally envisioned to go right there. So you can see that that's a floor to ceiling window so that it can get punch out to a walkway to the next building. But now our leadership is telling us they might want us to put it over there. So, but we haven't done the fundraising yet, so first we have to have the money to build the building, and then we can worry about it.
You need
Well,
a
no,
skywalk.
we could skywalk, which reduces the cost, because it's a much bigger skywalk. But that's a detail that we'll bring out later. Just worry, because we can't have people, you know, trying to, no, that's not gonna work, it's not safe, so.
They use that just for writing, for people who want to write, learn to write.
So this is the lab. This is the lab that gathered the data from the roof. So typically, the technicians are in here when they're running the experiment actively, and they collect the data from the roof, from either the wind or the solar. This is usually quite busy.
And all the data goes down
That
to the
weird time of year.
This is a different area of research, but what's going on in terms of AI?
Oh, AI. I can show you that lab. So AI obviously is growing exponentially. And we have a lot of research, a lot of the faculty that are in AI research. And so, yeah, there's research going on all over in almost every application in AI.
Robotics.
Yeah, almost everything.
Robotics.
We have robotics, but we're trying to use AI in all applications. If you haven't used AI, you're missing out because it's great. I like it. Oh yeah. So this is our power electronics lab. And originally what we were planning to do in here, this is the lab where they can run classes or they'll run experiments. And we were going to get an anechoic chamber over there. An anechoic chamber. So I'll quiz the group. I'll see if who knows what an anechoic chamber is. I don't have a prize, but
Okay.
So does anyone know what an anechoic chamber is?
One that absorbs the sound
Right.
and doesn't reflect it back.
Exactly. So sounds, radio waves, all of those things. It's like a box, a room that's heavily insulated with all kinds of different foams and things like that. So that you can do research in there without interference from outside signals, radio frequency or anything else. So we were going to be putting an anechoic chamber in here, but due to the cost of actually getting it in here, it might go in our next building.
Yeah.
So now we're sort of in the in-between in here. We have our power electronics lab, and so we're trying to figure out what the highest and best use of that space is over there.
So you think the next bill will be 20 million too, or more?
Oh, it'll be more than that. Yeah. Yes. Due to inflation alone,
That's right.
it would be more than that. So
Is there any reason why there's no AC in here?
I just don't. I think we're on an automatic system in here, so if it's unoccupied, it will kind of turn off. You won't just keep it comfortable for nobody being in here. Yeah. So sometimes people complain about it, but it's like if it's heavily occupied, it's on all the time. So.
Thank you.
So I think Gene Truman was here for maybe 2 or 3 years before I was hired. And he was talking about the building then, way back. And so then he said about fundraising for it and some planning. And I think a lot of people probably thought he couldn't do it, but he did, and so we built it. But I've been through it all the way from like the fundraising stage through like design, and I had heavy input on the second floor, which I'm going to show you because I'm director of the whole second floor, which is our innovation studio. And then we had faculty teams and research teams come up with these different multifunctional labs that everyone could use for their research.
So in the process of demonstrating as long as you're following the grants that you receive, would you go back to those grantors for the next
Some of them, yes, we probably would. So luckily, we actually have a dedicated fundraiser just for our school. And he and the dean work very closely together identifying opportunities for people that believe in, because we feel that if we could show what we were doing, then we get more people to believe in what we're doing, it'll be easier for us to raise the next level of funds.
Yep.
So. I don't know if we're meant to walk backwards, but it feels like it sometimes. So I just do it. And it's too bad that you can't see this because this is another lab, but we'll see it when we go down. But they have the shade lows. So this is our 2-story motion capture lab. You can kind of see a sliver of it down there, but we'll go down there and look in it. And the reason we made it 2 stories is so that we can not only capture motion on the ground, so like a dancer or a conductor or a virtual surgery, but we could also look at the movement of our drones. So we have 2 stories to fly, put the drones in. Another thing that you'll notice is we have a lot of collaboration spaces. So if groups need to come and they need to work, they can find a place where they can talk or they can work outside of the lab. And a lot of students study here, hang out here, and do their projects here. So.
This is a transition.
Transition, just to get to the stairs. We're only transitioning to get to the stairs. This is Dr. Gentile.
Yeah.
He had a really large collection and donated that to us.
Sorry?
I
Richard.
met him very
Yeah.
briefly.
Yeah.
Richard Gentile.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy.
Yeah, he was really very nice.
Is he still alive? You know?
No, no. Richard died.
We used to go.
Now we got stairs again. If you don't want to do the stairs, you can take that elevator down to
3.
3.
You can take students every summer
It's up
to
to you.
dig up bones and bring.
This is good. I had a stair competition.
Oh, really?
I got 24 stairs.
24 in total.
24 flights.
Oh my gosh, are you
It's
kidding?
only 5. It has to only be 5 stairs.
Wow.
But I got 14 of them walking up to get to by the Union.
24 flights?
Yeah.
That's hard.
Not too hard if you space it out. You don't have to do them all together.
You don't have to do them all together. Oh, okay. That's good, because
That would be. That would not be good.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it.
Do you remember the name of the archaeology guy?
Richard Gentile?
Gentile. Yeah.
All right. more multi-purpose space, so these are very popular places for collaborative teams to work together. There's bathrooms on every floor, around every corner. I will bring up, this is the Missouri Institute for Defense and Energy. This is the only part of the building where it is classified research, and so we cannot gain entry to it. So you have to have the classification for their clearance for their Department of Defense research.
So what percentage has been sponsored in the whole campus thing?
In this building?
No, the campus one.
No, I don't know.
So in this building,
I mean, maybe half,
half is sponsored.
maybe. I'm just guessing. That's a guess. I haven't ever gone through it actually.
Is it not? Is it not?
Is a lot.
Yeah, there are still labs that are unnamed. The school is still unnamed, so if anybody is interested in naming the school, I can connect you with
Can I
the
get
person.
my checkbook?
Email me. I will help you to do that. I will put you in touch with the person who can do that. So yeah, there are still sponsorships opportunities. In fact, I just toured a company last week. It's a small manufacturing company in town that's interested in naming one of our smaller labs. So if you're interested in something really, you love it, and it's not already named, you can talk to Dan Dover about what God set you back. Thanks.
And it's going to put this kind of His defense.
So you'll notice these corridors we put on the outside because we wanted to show from the street. We wanted them to see people. We wanted them to see activity day and night. So we made it so that people that are at the light or walking could see us working in here. And they would say, "What is that?"
Motion capture.
Come on in. All right, so this is the two-story motion capture lab. So it has a fork that can sense movement, but also all of these rails you can mount cameras and you can capture the movement. So we've had dancers come in and do their dance and then analyze their movement to see where they can improve. We've had conductors come in and conduct, figure out why they're getting tennis elbow when they're conducting their form and things like that. This is set up for a virtual surgery, so they've got all of the cameras pointing on that. Or you can take the drone or the drone swarms and you can fly them up without, endangering people. So they actually have it right here where you can hang a net. They don't have it up right now, but you can hang a net right here so the people doing the experiment, if they lose control of the drone, it doesn't just come and slice them up. You can do a lot of things. We tried to make it so you can do a number of different projects in almost any discipline in both of these labs.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My daughter is a surgeon, she should have let me know.
This is the unmanned aerial systems lab, or the drone lab, as we call it. Drone lab. So they can work on their drones, and then they can go in there and they can fly them. But they can also take them outside, and there's different places they can
In
take
there,
them.
it's mostly just up and down.
Exactly. But we have airfields and other things that we
So
can
they can
use
make
to,
the drones here.
they can make them here. So typically what they're doing is Department of Defense work. So what they were working on when I last heard was how to take control of the drone swarm that may have a biological weapon package or a nuclear package. Let's say somebody flew it over a stadium. Like we could gain control of that drone swarm and take it and land it somewhere safe. Because you don't want ballistics at it, because then it's right over the stadium over everybody. So they're trying to make it so they can take control of those drone swarms and put them down somewhere where they won't cause harm.
So like an enemy?
Yes, an enemy. Yes.
Domestic enemy.
The Department of Defense work.
Is this training students in any way?
Yeah.
Graduate students working for
Yes.
the Department of Defense?
They work for their advisor, who has a
Okay.
Department of Defense contract.
Then they get paid by the Department of Defense?
They
or
get paid by their advisor, who works a grant from the Department of
Okay, okay.
Defense, yes. So there's a lot of graduate students that work in here. A few undergrads too. I mean, if you're the right person, and they need your skills, they will use that. This is kind of the more public. This is the non-mine part. Mine was the secret part. This is more of the public facing. And they've got people working in there now. They always have somebody in there working. Always.
Don't touch the glass then.
It scares the engineers. You don't want to do
Otra compañía, mira. Olson.
different engineering firms like Olson, they support us. So you're talking about computing power. So this is where we have our big data center. So we have a whole lot of GPUs in here. And we actually host the data from the whole U of M system. So if you need to work on large data sets, big data analysis and those things, this is where you could store that. And we just continue to add more computing power to that space. Eventually we'll just outgrow it and we'll have to get another one. But I don't ever go in here because it's, if you even touch the door, it's climate controlled. It's to cool because all of those computers create so much heat that it has to be cooled.
That's your Bitcoin mining.
Technology.
This is the Advanced Manufacturing Lab. So you can see that there's a couple of collaborative robot arms that they can use to do manufacturing work. Another thing that they do in here is they're working on thin film, like delivery of medications and things like that. So there's a lot of
That robot looks really real in there.
it's pretty
the guy
cool.
behind it.
Oh yeah, he's a good.
He's a
they
good
did
one.
real well.
They're
It's very
well done.
believable. Yeah. So this lab is actually one that, as we reimagine the space in the building, now that we are a couple of years into it, if it's not being used, we may put them in a larger lab because they're just bursting out of this lab. Need a bigger space. So. Yeah, that's what we listen. Yeah, but this is an example of a lab right here that isn't named. So there you go. If you're interested in. This is one of the only classrooms actually in the whole building. This is our high performance computing classrooms. Two, big data research, AI research. It's quite hot in here for some reason. There's probably nobody's in here.
So would you call it a supercomputer then?
Yes,
It's a supercomputer.
yes,
Wow.
supercomputing power.
Wow.
It's a multiple
Supercomputing.
So what you can do actually is you can teach this as a classroom and you can put students in groups. So each group can see on the monitor what their teacher is doing, but you can also use it for like senior design classes where they need to break out and they need to do their own presentations. So you can do this, you can do a lot of different things in here. Sometimes we'll even do things like camps for like high schoolers where they have a laptop and they come in and work on some kind of a project. No, this would be like a camp would be planned and ran. We have a building over on Truce, it's called Kansas City Engineering Zone, that some of the area high schools use after school to work on engineering projects. It's called the KC Easy. That we have staffing all the time for them to do, some of
Is
their
that the
work.
4825 building?
Kind of where the KC STEM Alliance is. Yep.
Putting the trees?
That's an old building, KCR radio station.
Oh, KCR, really? Okay.
From a room with
Oh, now-
chairs
Reggie, Spark is located there.
Oh, okay. Smart, yes, Smart is there. I know Smart,
Yeah.
It's a really amazing.
Because we don't let the kids in there without it being
Right.
staffed. And it's open for very specific hours, but it gives these kids a place to go after school to actually work on something constructive and productive, and something that may spark their interest so that eventually maybe they decide to go into STEM. We be prepared to do so. We can't go in there, which is too bad because our flight simulator is in there. So you can peek around, go ahead and peek around the corner, and you can see our flight simulator.
I tried one once.
So you can learn to fly.
Yes, you can learn to fly any aircraft.
Oh, yeah.
Not a helicopter, but an airplane on that flight simulator. And so that may seem silly, you may think, oh, that's just a game. But actually the research that they do on the flight simulator, last I heard, was to do with like pilot decision making and fatigue. So they can have a pilot in there and they have an app where they continue to change variables and they see if he or she is able to make the right decisions. And when they start making errors, the plane will then take decisions away from them so that they can calm down and they read their heart and all that stuff. And then when they get under control again, they let them make more decisions. So it's trying to make it safer for us to fly with a human being flying the plane. It's like almost like artificial intelligence assisted flying.
This is very useful. I
Yes.
tried once once.
Yes, I've tried and crashed, but the screen just goes blank. You don't have to actually crash or anything like that, which is really good because that would be hard. So.
I love that we all need a simulator to go out.
I didn't actually
Right,
they simulate
yeah,
their work.
my life would just really
Yes.
Their work, they simulate their work.
No.
Okay.
So now we go to the number 1, number 2.
Yep.
Go ahead.
That's beautiful.
Oh, very nice one.
How we get tired all the time.
Okay, so this is the second floor and this is the innovation studio. Oh, is people still Yeah, I just kind of moved on right there. I thought it seemed like a smaller group, but I thought it was just me.
I can hold it.
No, I got it.
You got it.
Never seen from you.
we started building this building, originally, we were thinking of building the building at the top corner of the campus, and it was just going to be the Innovation Studio. It was just going to be the Plaster Center instead of the Plaster Research Center. So what we did is, this is called the Robert W. Plaster Free Enterprise and Research Center. So we've got the free enterprise here on the second floor and the research center on all of the other floors. So we combined all of them. Once we lost our state funding, that was what the state said they would match a certain amount that we fundraised. And we fundraised it, and then they said, oh, we've changed our minds. And so we could not afford that building. So, but what we did was combine it with the research center that we wanted to build, and then we completed the fundraising like that. Build a smaller building, because this is a smaller building than what we would originally had, and just co-located it with the School of Science and Engineering, which I think in retrospect was probably the best thing that could have happened, because I personally think that co-location is really what makes people have collision of ideas and crossover on projects. And I think, you know how students don't even want to cross the street or don't want to even go, I think it would have been hard for people to get to. And so I think this turned out for the best. But we consider this floor like the public-facing part of our school. So we have industry come in here and do projects. We do research projects in here, student projects in here, and then entrepreneurs will come in and they may do prototyping in here as well.
This is where the 3D facility
Yes.
is.
So that's this is.
You'll see. I had a tour of the 3D facilities.
This is not a computer lab anymore.
3D.
So we originally had this as a computer lab that just had rows, and it was going to be it was developer stations for our VR showroom, so people would be able to develop applications in the showroom. But what we really needed was a student-focused space where the students could come in and they could do a lot of their projects without as much assistance, and they weren't using our more expensive machines. So there's certain machines that, like, my technician Brian only can use because they're complicated machines, and since he can't help everybody, we bought some of the lower level machines that students can just plug and play. They can 3D print something. We've got a little bit of fabrication, handheld tools. I don't know where our poster printer went, but we have a big poster and wall cleaning decal printer that was over there. And then, so they can then prototype something, almost anything they want. It's covered by student fees, so the students can just come in and do it for free. You can't start a business out of here. Like, if you're going to become a super user, you're going to start paying.
Yeah.
So if you're going to use more than your share of what we consider reasonable material, then that's when you're going to find another way. But they can print their own posters. They can print their own 3D prints. There's small handheld tools, vices and things, surface area where they can work on their projects and put their projects together. And this is just a completely student-focused space. So I don't know if any of you were familiar with SS School of Computing Engineering far before, but Don Smith, he was one of the early leaders of the school, of what became the School of Computing and Engineering. So his family made this gift for this student fabrication lab. And so his name will be out there sometime in October when we have the grand opening ceremony for his family. So this lab became named. His family was interested in naming it and giving a gift to do so. And that gift allows us to provide free materials, provide free help, enable the students to be able to do projects, and have access to tools and machines that they wouldn't normally have access to. So that's it. Nice and big. This is a very small conference room that we use for just conference calls and things like that. We only have 2 offices in this entire building, and they belong to my staff. One of them is my virtual reality coordinator, and the other one, which is around the corner, is my 3D printing and fabrication shop manager.
No big lecture halls.
No big lecture halls, no faculty offices. It's only the people that it really takes to run the building. And these are all labs or research labs or project space.
Makes sense.
I do know. Actually, my office is in Florsheim, in the dean's office area. Sorry, I mentioned my bad. So this is Brian. He is the manager here.
All right.
This is the UMKC Retirees Association.
Yes.
So they're here to learn about our 3D printing and to learn about the fabrication shop.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Well, welcome to my laboratory. I'm glad that you folks came out to visit us today. I'll talk a little bit about the machines. And if you have questions, please just let me know about it, because I'd rather tell you what you want to hear about than have you just listen to me. But, you know, 3D printing has been around for longer than a lot of people think it has. It's almost a 40-year-old technology now. The person who really brought it to market, his name is Scott, still owns the Stratasys company. Stratasys is the biggest name in commercial 3D printing, and they're really the people that pioneered it. Within about the last 10 years, it's become very common to see out in the world, and that's because Stratasys patents are expiring, and there are other people that are able to, you know, build technology like this much more cheaply. The other thing is that the advent of microelectronics that was mostly driven by cell phone technology has made a lot of electronic things that have controllers in them much, much cheaper than they used to be to make. So that's true for many industries. So sort of behind you, these FDM machines back here, I'm going to cycle around to the other side of the group right here and start kind of over here. Most of this stuff that you see that's made out of a single color of plastic like this was printed on one of my fused deposition modeling machines. And this is the type of 3D printing you're most likely to be familiar with. And it uses rolls of a plastic filament like this one that's, you know, it's just a plastic string. And that's going to be drawn up into the machine and melted and then forced through a tiny little extruder needle that draws little lines of plastic back and forth and to and fro until it's built the thing that it wants to build. It doesn't like it that I took the roll out, but that's okay. Get back to work. All right. So, but that's just one kind, and this has been around for 40 years. This is so cheap and easy to do today that you have little couple of $100 printers on kids' desks that will do this kind of stuff these days. And, you know, depending on your modeling skill, you can make all kinds of neat things that fit together and fold up if you want, or things that are more monolithic, or, you know, things that indeed were even printed as one piece, like my Sir Snake right here, which just kind of shows the intricacy of what the machine can make. So, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. It's all, you're welcome to touch anything that's in here. We're hands-on deal. Not super well, but a little bit. So, okay, so that's one kind of machine, but let me show you one that you probably haven't seen and is a little bit more impressive than those. Now we're going to kind of cycle around through this way, and we're going to take a look at my polyjet machines over here. Now, this is completely different. Oops, I'm gonna open this cabinet right here, so a little bit this way. So this is completely different from that, in that this printer that I have right here, I don't have anything running on one of them right now, but can print all of these colors at one time. And that is because this printer is essentially like an inkjet printer, the same as you would print color photographs on paper. It's the same thing, with the difference being that instead of spraying an ink down on here, it's spraying a photosensitive resin. It's essentially plexiglass So it will spray it down as if it were a picture, and then UV lights will cure that layer. The platform will move down and it'll make another layer and another until it builds a 3D object. But this printer actually printed this picture, which is an aerial photograph. This is actually over by Brush Creek right here. And this was a piece of a tile that was made for a model that eventually looked like this. So this is actually the back of it, but the model itself had topographical information, and the satellite picture was overlaid over top of it and printed actually in the actual plastic itself. So that's a really kind of a neat technology that most people haven't seen because these printers are quite expensive. But what that allows me to do is it allows me to make, I'll get a technical object here. It allows me to make really detailed stuff that has color in it the way that something else might not do. And it also allows me to make technical items that are very smooth compared to FDM printing, which has limitations as far as surface finish and stuff. Since it goes down as a liquid, everything has to be supported. So everything, you know, everywhere where there would be a space, such as the hole in the side of the shell, would have to be filled in with a gelatin-like support material that holds it up while the plastic part is cured. So that's the way that it can make stuff that has what we call an overhang, or like in the skull you can see there was support material all holding these parts up while it was printed. But here on the cranium part where no support was needed, it just prints the resin with no support needed, and you can see that this part is glossy, whereas that part is matte like that. And if this were an important, if someone paid me a lot of money, I could sit here and polish up the matte parts to be shiny if I wanted. I'm not going to. I just use this as an example. Yes, question. Very small, fractions of a millimeter, like maybe 1/100th of a millimeter. So very, very small.
Can you use this for like microchip?
So the problem is this: people always want me to print microfluidic structures, and the problem with it is I could print a very, very small tube, but if that tube is filled with support material, you can't remove it, because while the support material is soft, the tighter you constrict it, the more it's like it was just solid plastic. So I frequently do get people trying to make me print very technical things, but honestly, this is better for representative objects, you know, when you just want to show somebody what something might look like or make a mock-up of it, but it's not the best for technical, like the actual technical items themselves. The material is quite brittle, so that's why I show people that, you know, the material itself is amazing and it's colorful, but it's also very brittle. So, you know, I probably can't break this one in my hands, but it's quite brittle if you drop it to the ground. So it's really made to show people stuff, you know, if they want a model that indicates that something is there in space, but is somewhat less useful. So as far as printers that make really strong stuff, you know, I have my Fortis 450 MC over here. It's just a bigger version of these printers over there, but it also is capable of printing hotter, and that means that it can use materials that have a greater final strength once they've been deposited out there. So come on around this way. We're kind of done with this side, and we're running something on a laser right now. So I've got a big laser engraver that is making some windows. You guys are going to get a little preview of the new Tampa Bay airport that is going to be built that nobody has seen yet because it's not there. But these are windows. Yeah, y'all come on all through here. Those pieces of acrylic that are being engraved and cut here are the windows for a model that I'll show you over here in just a second. Maybe it's the same company, the way that Mitsubishi makes excavators and cars, but it's not really the same company. So I don't know, but they may be related. So, you know, coming on around this way, I have a couple other things. I have a large format printer here. This one just prints actual colored stuff. It's just 2D. Like when kids come around from the local schools, you may recognize, you know, I'll make them stickers and stuff like that. And the neat thing about this machine is that it'll print all this full color stuff, and then it has a little drag knife that'll cut it out so that you have the actual sticker, you know, separated from the rest of the parent material. The last printer I'm going to show you is this guy right here. This little unassuming penultimate, second to last. This little guy right here is actually my favorite printer out of all of the ones in here, and I have a little demonstration that shows why. This little brake lever is a piece that is printed in nylon with a chopped carbon fiber reinforcement. It has some stiffness to it, so I'll invite you to just gently bend it just a little bit and see that it has a little bit of flex to it. And then what I'll invite you to do is to handle its partner and do the same test with its partner, and we'll see if you feel a difference. Give that just a little bend and see what kind of flexibility it has through there.
Not too much.
There's not too much, but there's some, right? Now, by comparison, see if that one's any different.
Oh, this one is strong.
Oh, it's quite a bit stiffer. You can see it in his face. That's why I love this demonstration, because it's quite a bit stiffer. So you're welcome to try these, and the difference between the two is not apparent, but what it is there's a little tiny roll of continuous carbon fiber that is laid around the perimeter of it and ironed into the plastic every so often as it goes around. And there's really only 8 perimeters of that fiber. So there's really only 16 little sticks of a tiny carbon fiber in there, and it makes a big difference to the flexibility of the thing. So with this printer, we can make parts with a similar tensile strength to aluminum, and stuff like that is starting to show up in aerospace these days.
Are you going to print some parts, working parts?
So I can't do that with the stuff that I have in here, but we do have one of the printers that is involved with that I'll tell you about after I get done with my last printer.
I mean, other people are doing.
Oh yes, absolutely. We have one of the bioprinters downstairs that can actually do like tissue lattices, where they take stem cells and inject them in a pattern so that they grow together into a membrane that then later can be harvested and used for stuff like burn, repair, and stuff like that.
Any collaboration with Stowers?
Well, so what we really have is we have some equipment that is similar to the equipment that is used to do that, but we do not do it ourselves. It's incredibly technical to actually do that kind of stuff. So last printer, I don't want people to get too bored with this. So the last one that I'm going to talk about right here is this metal printer that we have. This is our biggest and most impressive printer. It has a little tiny window on the front of it that you can look in and see if you want to. I can't open this cast right here because it uses powdered metal, and powdered metal is a neurological toxin, so I don't want to breathe it in. So I use a forced air respirator when I open this up so that I don't breathe the dust that's in it. But what this does is it makes layers of powder and then uses a fiber laser to melt the layers of powder together in little lines, not unlike the FDM printers. It's actually quite similar to the way that it works. And then as the laser goes back and forth and draws this little picture, then it goes down, brings a little more powder over, and it makes another little layer of sintered metal material, meaning the laser melts the particles together. So once that's done and it comes out, it will come out on a build plate like this, welded to the build plate, because the laser literally made a little forest of pins, and then it built the item on top of that. So when this was on there, it was setting up on there like that, and then I sawed it off with a bandsaw so that I could get the little object off. But it's quite heavy. I mean, it's solid stainless steel. So this is our most expensive printer. It's one of the most difficult to use. It has the smallest build area, but if you were, say, on a spaceship, you might want to have something like this if you didn't want to carry traditional subtractive machining materials, because if you have to have a huge block of metal that you're waiting to make something out of, you paid to put that in space, whereas this, I would have my powder, and you would only need as much powder as you needed for any particular thing, and in fact you could manufacture it in space. So that's one of the things that I see as the future for this kind of thing.
Each layer, each time it sprays, how thick is it? Is it hundredth of a millimeter or less?
Not in this case. In this case, the powder has a certain body to it, so think more like tenth of a millimeter. Yeah, like tenth of a millimeter layers for that, because the powder, while very, very fine, it's still, is powder, so you have to have a certain minimum thickness of spreading. But it has a little silicone squeegee that spreads it over like cake batter, and then it shoots another layer and moves down and does another layer like that. So I don't want to talk your ear off or bore you about what's going on. So now I invite you to ask me whatever questions you have about this stuff. If you do, yes, sir. 300K.
310?
So in other words, only about 2/3 of the average house in America today, which is a shocking amount of money.
The machine.
Oh, the machine.
So, yeah, you're pretty close. So some of my, I say more basic, but some of my more pedestrian commercial machines might run about $65,000 to purchase a machine like that. The Polyjets are about $125,000 each. And the initial cost is only part of it.
Yeah.
Because the running cost of them is pretty high compared to most machines you'd be familiar with.
What about maintenance? Do they break down pretty often, or do
Yes.
they go on forever?
They are very, very maintenance intensive. Especially the Polyjets, which are essentially they're essentially piping glue out of a container through a long pipe and out of a needle at the end. That requires a lot of maintenance and cleaning to keep it running. And so
They clog up otherwise, right?
so easily and so readily. And of course, they all have their own little foibles, but yes, melting the plastic and trying to squish it through little holes has its issues. So, but I mean, they're pretty good, and my job is to keep it running so other people can use it here. And the commercial stuff is way better than the consumer stuff. The consumer stuff is very, very labor intensive to keep it running. But at the same time, it's getting better all the time. If we were to go back even 10 years into the consumer printers that were coming onto the market, they look like they look like a horse and buggy compared to what we're running today. So the technology, I have almost never seen technology move faster with something than with these tools, because what you could get 10 years ago was poor. Unless you spend lots and lots of money. But now, when people come to me and ask me, I don't advise them to go for this commercial stuff. I point them towards prosumer stuff that is rapidly approaching the quality of this at a very tiny fraction of the price, like 1/100th of the price, kind of like price reduction. So that's something you always see with technology. The initial technologies are very expensive, and then the price falls as more and more people make it. So that's what I said earlier about cell phones. So like a lot of the technology that you're seeing just blow up was because they developed it at great expense and difficulty for cell phones because people really wanted them and were willing to pay for them. But now everything that was developed, this would include a lot of microcontrollers, a lot of GPS units that are tinier than a postage stamp that can find you anywhere in the world. All that stuff was developed for phones, but once they had it, the developmental cost had been amortized, and then you could buy the parts that were made from that. So that is really what has made a sort of a technological renaissance. An earlier one was the Apollo program. So that was something that really made a big jump, where you can look at what you had before and what you had after and see the difference. So
Hey, everybody, we're gonna have to keep moving.
Yep.
We're not gonna make it. I want Brian to be able to show us the,
this only takes a moment.
fabrication shop.
This only takes a moment.
This is the mechanical part of it.
So in here, folks, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because it's loud, but basically, in addition to my 3D printers, which are most of what people want to see, I do indeed have machining, traditional subtractive manufacturing, as opposed to the additive over there. I have tools for dealing with sheet metal. I have welding in the back, so between machining, sheet metal fabrication, and welding, I have metal fabrication pretty well covered. That's actually where my background is. I was a certified aircraft mechanic for years, and then I'm off to do that job. So I taught a lot of sheet metal fabrication of that. In addition to that, in the middle of my room, I have several CNC machines. My CNC mill and a couple of CNC routers that are more like carving wood and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, these guys are carving a very large topographical model out of foam pieces. This model will eventually be probably 25 by 50 feet. That will be used for modeling water flow through brush creek, so we can prevent floods and stuff like that. And then finally, I have a nice suite of woodworking tools, most of which you can't see because it's behind a big foam. But we also use all of this to support prototype development and whatever the needs of the research faculty and staff you see for the students. So that's my deal. Thank you for coming to see me.
Well,
thank you so much. Well, thank you so much. Absolutely. I think y'all are going to go right over to the other side of this wall into our AR VR and see the third and final part of the Innovation Studio.
You were in the Air Force, were you? Were you in the Air Force?
I'm sorry?
Were you ever in the Air Force?
Oh no, I am a civilian, but I have my students will probably use third as military because they get out.
I'm on top of the gate. It seems like a Saturday. I'm tired every day's a Saturday.
Before I start. Okay, so remember when I told you we repurposed that computer lab in there to a student fabrication lab? We brought our developer stations in here. So we combined our VR development lab with our VR showroom. So you can actually develop applications in here on VR, and then you can go to any equipment, screens, headsets, and other things, and you can visualize your creation. So that's kind of what we did. Sailor is our VR coordinator in here, so he's in charge of all of the VR work that we're doing, and he can tell you a little bit about this area.
Hi. So we have some students who are employed in here, and they do projects and tours, teach people generally about how the technology works because it's so new. We also have headsets and hardware that the students can borrow so they can build their applications for it. And there is a class, there's a virtual reality class where students can get a full semester experience of 3 credit hours where they learn how to build, learn how the tools work for the first half, and then the second half is all a project they come up with on their own.
So VR has applications in all types of industries. Some industries use it for training. Some industries use it for arts and theater. It has any application you can think of, any industry you can use VR in to enhance that. So we try to work on projects where VR is we're not just doing VR for the sake of VR. It's because virtual reality adds something. It adds value to whatever field is trying to do there. So you can do research in it, you can do training in it, but of course, we use a lot of this space as recruiting space. We have a lot of fun applications so that when the high school kids come in, they can see how fun it is. And then we actually hire student workers to be in here to help guide our tours. We don't have any this summer because they all got internships in really great companies, which is good for them, sad for me, but we'll hire more in the fall. So when all of these groups come through, you can actually experience some of the VR that we have here in the lab. And we can show you a few of those with our remaining time.
This is a screen I want for my house. For TV.
Right, yes. Yes.
Oh, that? Take that.
That's always.
Reggie.
Yeah.
Take that.
Oh, there's a better one. Wait a minute.
Here you can drive Le Mans.
That's right.
Gotta wait for Sailor.
Yep.
Hold up. If you want to show them a couple of things,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
So the 3D laptops would be a great place to start because they have a lenticular display. If you've ever been at a museum or an airport where they have kind of the...
Can you talk louder, son?
Oh, louder?
Pretty
Yeah.
loud.
Thank you.
Not like
So it's like from one side you'll see one image, and then from the other side, let me put this stuff down.
Yeah.
You'll see the other image. And they use that with a screen that has LED pixels on either sides of this kind of like angled surface, and they call it a lenticular display. Somehow they fit 8 of those into it, but you'll see it when you sit down at one of these, because once it starts tracking your head, it goes into full 3D, and it looks like there's a whole world.
So
on
we
the
need
other side.
2 volunteers to sit down at these. And you have to sit down at it so it can track your eyes, and then it will look 3D to you.
Oh wow! Can you guys see it 3D?
We can't see it as much. It looks weird, but it doesn't
Can,
look 3D.
it's 3D. I mean, it's like you can reach in there.
There you go, Fabio. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Can you?
Yeah, if you pick
Here,
the
see,
pencil,
Oh yeah, I can see
can you
it
see it
even
now?
from here.
Even from here?
Yeah.
Wow.
here with this, you can, there you go. That
So-
kind of pebble button on the stylus, the pen up.
Mhm.
No, this thing. So there's this button there that's like a mouse click. And then if you have to kind of go up above the, yeah. There it is. And then a little further, because it's all in, it's like you're sculpting in 3D.
Can I move anything in there?
Yeah, if you grab that hand, see like the hand on there, it's kind of floating.
There's a hand float right here.
Yeah, if you grab that, you'll move what the photo is.
How do I grab it?
The kind of white pebble button.
Yeah.
Yes, I grab it. Oh, okay. Maybe it. Well, no, it
Yeah,
goes
you
through
go
it.
a little further.
It goes through it.
It's like learning a whole new.
Oh, here's a hand here.
Yeah, try that, and then hold the pebble down.
Hold it on the hand.
I'm holding it down.
On that hand, right there. There.
So it's kind of like a mouse click. So like if you.
Yeah, I can't grab anything.
Here, try holding it like this.
Oh,
And
like
then
that. Okay.
you can poke it with your top finger, yeah.
Oh wait.
And then pick your finger up. Pick your finger up, and then once, you have to go up and then down to click on it.
Yeah.
These screens are probably,
Yeah, go up by the fingers and then what? You're supposed to click it.
these computer screens are probably a little bit more expensive than the standard ones, aren't they?
Yeah, these are $4,000.
You want to try it? Why don't you try it? Here, sit, here. Let me sit down.
Would you like me to show you?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll show you.
I can't do anything.
So you're supposed to move it
You're supposed to grab the hand.
Yeah.
Here, this will be easier. So you have to be.
Oh yeah, I got
up
it. See,
and down.
see, it came open and forward.
What do you mean? Do
Let
it,
me
do
show
it
you.
again.
Let
Do
me
it
show you.
again.
Okay. I've been doing this for 2 years now.
Okay.
I'm gonna get it. Oh, it's not totally aligned. So
What-
usually it's better than this.
Oh.
But notice that ray,
Yeah.
it should be like it's coming straight out of the front of the pencil.
Oh.
Ah,
I'll power cycle it after this tour ends. But so you have to be right on there and then click this down.
I thought.
Oh, it doesn't work. There
Oh,
it
there it
is.
is.
There it is.
Oh.
And then if you put it in here, you'll go to another demo.
Oh,
Check
wow.
this out.
This is like Tony Stark.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Oh, yeah. This is just like Iron Man.
Yeah.
So he has Jarvis. You need a Jarvis.
Here. What is it?
Where's your Jarvis?
Over at the other one.
Oh, okay.
I've been building
that's
one.
where the
actually,
clicker is.
yeah.
I was wondering where the clicker was.
Wow, here, somebody said here.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. Real cool.
Yeah, so you can.
He's building it.
You want to try it? It's really good.
Sit down. Why don't you sit down? You love this. Are you watching? Someone, you want to sit down? Yeah, try it. Give it a shot.
Just orienting minutes.
Huh?
But technology is advancing. Yes, yeah. There are some that are pretty slim now. So,
You change color. See?
exactly. I mean, I didn't use a computer.
But I
until
got
I
it.
was in
You gotta click that white button.
This is the lenticular display laptop.
Now I see something.
Okay. So
A
maybe.
lenticular display. Lenticular display.
Is it in the market?
I think you can buy these.
She's trying to read
This
that.
one, you can also go to. It is amazing. And then we can turn it into YouTube video.
Walk down a lane. I want to walk down a lane.
You have recorded the entire trip, pretty much, Jacob. That's good. Yeah. So you make it available
Yep.
online. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I did that for the Halloween tour over campus as well. So Chris Wolf
video now. Oh, he loves that now. He's all over that. So they will make technology. And then there'll be more technology researchers, super users, and people who really want to live it every day.
Education has gone so much from the classrooms to the collaborative team.
Which is
And that's a
And that's how the workplace is a
Yes,
lot more
it's really
now.
transition.
Working in teams, working on projects, learning how to deal with other people, keeping up with technology.
In terms of that, do you have any courses that help people integrate ideas, procedures? I disagree with you. How are we
Well,
gonna
so
work
the
that
senior
out?
design project, they have to work in a team
Right.
to get that done. And they're sponsored by a company. So yeah, yes, they have to make it work or they're not gonna.
You're finding there saying, these are my ideas, you should do this, you should do this. In a collaborative setting, there's got to be an opportunity for everybody to have input.
Yes.
That just works its way out.
Eventually it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
They throw the guy out.
I'm just gonna say, you're out, you're with this
Yeah.
student,
Yeah,
you're with
I
this
mean, if it doesn't work itself out in school, well, when you enter the workforce.
You're gone.
That's right. Well, this has just been so great.
Oh, there you go.
My degree's in engineering, but I've never been able to do it.
Another reason was that virtual reality is absolutely amazing.
So this headset is the MetaQuest Pro, and it's capable of augmented reality and virtual reality. Have to wait for it to load up. Uses cameras in the front to track the hands. I'll set up the casting so you can see what I see. Then later. Okay, now you can see what I see.
New technology.
This thing is cool. It feels like you're releasing the coral reefs.
Yeah.
If you can't travel anymore, you know, and you can't do the actual,
that's-
then this is the thing to do it. And we all get really old. It's really cool. Look at them wear.
I was amazed that you put the piece through the
Yes,
through
I
the board.
know, through the board. I lost the board now, though. They're gonna come and ask me for money. They say, I disappear. I can't find the board back. Look, you can resize it.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, I can make it big,
Turn
giant.
pass through on
Look at that.
so now I can see you.
Wow. Can see if I can use.
Still be a new hobby. But she said it's about $4,000 right now.
Only for the screen.
Only for the screen.
Oh, only for the screen. So
It'll get cheaper.
whoa! Jeez, I'm destroying stuff in there. I don't know. I'll probably blow something up. I'm getting out of here.
So, you know, we have donors, and all kinds of different funding sources. We do get work from faculty that have grant money. We charge for some of the things that we do. There's just a number of different ways.
Ways to make it happen. It seems really hard to be self-sufficient when you're in university, but
Yeah.
it happens, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta get people. We're gonna have to move on.
Like a bunch of little kids in kindergarten.
Too many fun toys. You can get trapped in here.
Oh yes.
That's why I don't come here all the time, because otherwise I'd never get it.
We need to get some senior people to volunteer. We'll come in here.
My grandson.
Sort of.
Okay, here we go.
Good luck with your
It is, yeah, we do Formula One here. Oh, not exactly. Wouldn't it be like the rectangular one for Formula One? Yeah.
Sailor actually is a former student of mine and graduated with his computer science degree, so I hired him. I didn't even let him enter the workforce, I just hired him. So we've got several different initiatives that we're working on that will work nicely with what we have in there. That's my branding right there. You can buy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You put your name there.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's where we were before, but this is the
Well,
observation.
yeah, we're down there.
Donors board, right?
I thought you might be interested to know how we pay overall. So this is the donor wall.
Sorry.
So you can see, this was made possible by a lot of different companies, families, private and personal gifts, and also grants. So actually, almost all of the equipment on the second floor is paid for from this grant. We had a huge Economic Development Administration grant. The Kaufman group also gave us quite a bit of grant money, and then the Plaster family. Those are probably the three biggest ones, and then there were other gifts. that came from a lot of the companies in town. So you can see that we have a lot of support from the computing and engineering and science community here in town. And even like even though my name's not here, I donated to this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can all.
Because it was all of us
It's
that went in
micro,
on
it's
a
micro.
gift. There's a bunch of us, like, because you have to get to like 5,000 to get, so we all got to a point where our, so Dr. Chowdhury, he was former department chair, and he, Dean Truman and his wife donated, so you, like Jim Hogan, he was the head of Burns and McDonnell for a long time, and so we have a lot of help with it,
So what was the minimum contribution that you needed to
I
have?
think
a
this
name?
is, I think it's 5, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, the UMKC Retirees Association could be up there,
Yeah,
if you wanted it to be.
So if it fails, then where would you expand it?
I don't know.
We can put another board right here.
That's someone else's.
But the Plaster name itself is not one of these, or is it?
No, the whole
Just-
building
yeah.
is named after Robert W. Plaster. He's
Yeah, he's up there.
he's got multiple tiles.
I see the National Science Foundation up there.
Yes.
Was that a large one too, or?
I don't know about that
Uh-huh.
one. I managed this one. And-
Right.
And this one. With the dean. They were big ones.
Uh-huh.
Oh,